You do too many things. And I would say, no, I'm not doing too many things. I do the things that I know in the future they will create synergies between themselves and will power each other. This is where we are now. We are in that acceleration process, exponentiality process, on where those things are becoming. But basically, we call this the year of convergence.
Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Fabio Giorno.
So Bitcoin, all those currencies are using traditional encryption, cryptographic root keys. But you do too many.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're tuning in. I have the honor and privilege to be alongside my CEO, our CEO for CLSQ and WiseKey, none other than the great Carlos Creus Moreira. Carlos, good morning, and actually for you, you're in Switzerland, so good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Fabio, and great to be with you guys today.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been really, really excited about this interview, and I know a lot of people are just recently piling in, so we've got a lot to talk about. Carlos, I just wanted to kind of give you an ability and an introduction here. What is your background? You know, you're a very, very well-known cybersecurity United Nations champion. How did this lead you to start CLSQ and WiseKey?
Yeah, you know, I live in Geneva, Switzerland, so you probably know, and if you don't, you can Google that Geneva actually invented the World Wide Web. So the Web 1.0, which was 35 years old, was invented in the city, right? There was a combination of CERN, which is the nuclear research facility in Switzerland. They invented the web, which sits on the top of the internet, right? The web is kind of the software of the internet, which is the hardware. And I was at that time in the UN, so I was running cybersecurity, equivalent of what you can call a CTO or cybersecurity expert working for the UN in order to protect the critical infrastructure. You know, UN obviously is #1 target for hackers in the world. They would love to bring them down. Our job was to, you know, make that impossible. So the web was designed and used for first time. I was at the beginning of the first node of the web in Geneva. So I worked with Jim Lee and the team there. And at that time, we started to realize that although the web was an excellent way to interconnect machines in a decentralized way with a hyperlinked environment, it has a lot of issues on cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, in one side, you facilitate the thing, in the other side, you expose the thing, right? So during many years, doing a lot of pilot projects on the web, we did the first e-voting project in the world in Geneva, letting Swiss people vote online. So all those proof of concept allow us to identify the real issues. And after serving the UN for 16 years on that capacity, I thought that was a good time to create a company, which was WiseKey. I started with VeriSign, which is a very well-established company in the United States. Then they become a shareholder. And then WiseKey was actually one of the first listed companies in the stock market in Switzerland. Then we started to acquire companies, to consolidate assets, and basically letting the technology to converge, until we also, in 2023, we decided to spin off the semiconductor business, which becomes CLSQ. CLSQ was listed in May 23, and last year reached a $1 billion valuation because the Google came with the Willow chip and basically started to demonstrate that quantum is coming, and you need to have a quantum protection, which is what you call post-quantum technology. And this is exactly what we have those microchips that they are post-quantum ready that will defend a quantum attack. And this is a big explosion of the company, the market, and everything we are doing, because it's now, right? As your title, this is not tomorrow, this is happening now. And we saw that coming 35 years ago. So we are at the genesis of the infrastructure, so we understand very well the infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure, Carlos. And you know what's interesting? When I first discovered the company, I actually didn't really realize that it was bigger than just a semiconductor. I have a background in investing in semiconductors, and when I found your company, I found it really interesting. But as I started to learn more about CLSQ and WISeKey, it's not just a semiconductor, and it's not just satellites. It's an entire ecosystem. And the
Correct.
entire ecosystem is fascinating, and it's a major project. What keeps you motivated to continue this legacy project that you and your company have?
So as you say, the verticalization of the technology assets in different companies allow us to be very specialized on each of them, but at the same time to create convergence between them, right?
Right.
So when WISeKey has a cryptographic root key, which is one of the dominant root keys. 6 billion devices have already, your mobile phone, your microcomputer, all that has already a WISeKey cryptographic root key embedded already from factory. So
Nice.
it took us 19 years to deploy that ecosystem, and that basically is a trust anchor into the hardware. So it's a trust component that makes your hardware trusted versus something that is not trusted. So later we start to say, what about if we do the same thing at the microchip level? What about if we put that software into the microchip? Microchip companies are utility companies in terms of using the chip for all sort of automation processes, but they are not really companies that they care too much about trust or security. There's more functionality. They're focused, like NVIDIA with the AI, or ARM or NXP. Those companies sell a lot of chips, but their concerns about cybersecurity, neutrality, issues related to governance, they are not really their main concern. And the market is asking for that now, right? Countries are saying, okay, I want to install 100 billion chips in my country, but I want to be under my root key. I don't want to have a foreign root key doing that for me, because I'm giving too much power to that country that is going to do that for me. So this sovereign aspect is booming now, and our company is one of the only companies in the world that, due to that verticalization, is able to answer those very specific questions. Then we are very aggressive in also pushing the boundaries. Then we realize also that space is the cheapest way to connect devices. When you have billions of devices and they have your chips, like it is our case, how do I connect them? Do 3G, 4G, 5G will be too expensive, right? And very impossible to do in the middle of the sea or in the middle of the desert. So we started to launch satellite. I mean, that coincided also, and there was a historical moment where when SpaceX started to facilitate company like our companies to launch satellites with them, right? Because before that was impossible, it was too expensive. So that convergence of satellites, chips, encryption, and even now payment between those devices is what makes the company very, very unique, and what makes the relation between the companies in the group. We have now 4 companies, 2 of them listed on the NASDAQ, 2 others, and they are following the same path and will be listed in the NASDAQ in the near future, right? So at the end of the day, we have 4 very powerful companies, and they create a lot of synergies between themselves.
Yeah, Carlos, and you're a champion of synergy. You know, you've talked about it so many times. I've literally watched all of your interviews with Matthew Galinko, and you keep pushing this narrative of synergy, which I think is very bold. I think it probably rubs a couple of people the wrong way, just because simply they don't understand what you're trying to do. Some have actually claimed that you live in the future. I like to think I live in the future as well, and I think it's an exciting kind of time. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit. You've actually been living in the future for quite some time. I was actually really lucky to read both versions of the transhuman code, which you talk about convergence, which you talk about the need for humanity, the importance of AI, and to never lose humanity as a whole function. So my question to you is, why do people need to maybe read their books and understand what the transhuman code is narrating, but also specifically, how does it relate to the modern world around us?
Yeah, so because I come from the genesis, I mean, I've been on this for 40 years, right? So I as I mentioned before, I was at the zero node of the web. Now there are billions of nodes, and I was also with the first interconnectivity on website. You know, we actually developed the second website in Geneva. So I have seen the entire evolution, which it's not that we are in the future, but when you see the things from so far away, you can very easily project, right? And that's normally people that they have visions. It's people that they have experience, and you need that experience in order to be able to be accurate in your visions. So we see now the conversion is great, because that is exactly what happened in the Renaissance, where Leonardo da Vinci was there when mathematics, architecture,
Right.
sculpture, literature, all that converge, and that allows us to create a new society. And we are in that process. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, right? So the fourth industrial revolution has an amazing benefits for everything. You can start to see them, but it's also a very dangerous moment, right? Because those convergence are creating exponentiality between technologies. For instance, the arrival of quantum. I mean, we are talking about quantum security, but quantum is also a supercomputer capability that will be able to accelerate AI, to convert AI into AGI. So basically, we lose control of AI. And this is not only me saying that. You know, the founders of OpenAI and Google founder, all of them, they're saying, be careful, because we are putting genie out of the box here. I mean, we could very well lose control. And why? Because technology exponentiality doesn't need a human intervention anymore. You know, they are taking decisions between themselves. So that's where the transhuman code came. You know, that was a few years ago in Davos, where I go every year, the World Economic Forum, and you have a lot of technology leaders there and political leaders, and I warn them about, okay, exponentiality is great. What we are doing on AI is amazing. The quantity of data that we are able now to analyze, but the AI doesn't know what a human is. I mean, if you ask ChatGPT what is a human, or even you ask who I am, it will not be able to answer, because he has not been trained to even define a human. You know, you can define a human in so many different ways. You can say a human is a carbon, and a robot is a synthetic, and that's the only difference we have. The rest is going to be totally equal. So we need to train those algorithms to respect a human, to create like a safe zone where the algorithm will not in any way be against humans, because humans, we breed, we die, therefore we are like a liability. You know, AI can say, why should I even defend that human, because this is costing me a lot of money, sending CO2 to the atmosphere, is going to die, we're not going to be able to collect their experience, therefore it's a liability for us, right? Robots can do that better. So this is where in the ecosystem of companies we always put human at the center of the gravity. That's the word we say. You can have a lot of things around you, AI, you can accelerate, you can even enhance, if you wish, a medical enhancement of human. Why not? But without destroying the human identity. And then we go into the technology, because otherwise become a wishful thinking. You can talk about it and make a good YouTube sessions, but nothing happens. Then we go and actually we lobby with multinationals, we establish partnerships, we talk to governments, we educate them, and then we take a regulation that allows the human to be protected. So that's why we position ourselves like a human first platform. It's a human team versus the machine team, right? The money is not necessary yet on human, and that's what is very sad on that. It's a lot of money in the technology team, because human has been the product of that evolution. In the Web 1.0, which I studied in Geneva with CERN and the UN and all that, there was a kind of philosophy that everybody would share everything, and there was very utopian society, which never happened, because the Web 2.0 arrived and make humans the product. You know, social media. We are the product. That's why the social media is free, right? But that created a very big anomaly that is very difficult to correct, because those companies become so rich, so powerful, that they are not willing to correct that mistake, which is actually a very dangerous mistake, because that means that if we are the product and AI arrives, AI will basically take over. So that's a generational. I don't think in 5 years you will not. Either we won this battle or we lose that battle.
Right.
I think what keeps me excited and committed is that is now the time where we can take the right decision for the future for our kids and the future of the society. So we are in a historical moment where every decision matters, and where we have to be very conscious that if we don't take the right decision, there's going to be phenomenal consequences against us.
Yeah, no, it's so fascinating, and this is just something that I've heard you echo on many different interviews before, Carlos, and it's nice to see that you're keeping consistent with this need and this imminent threat, because we know there could be an absolute crazy explosion of robots, for example, with the robotics evolving in the next 5 years. They might be going rogue. We see it with Tesla. Tesla's been rolling out the robotaxi. Optimus is getting a lot of scalability over the next 5 years. NVIDIA has been doing a lot of things with robots as well. So it's interesting to see how quantum is actually going to be integrated as well. And, we saw this as well, where Jensen's comments, he was very negative towards quantum. And then within a couple months, he actually retracted a lot of his statements. And he actually adopted more of like a quantum classical type of system, which is quite interesting. And I know you were very vocal about it on X. So it leads me. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, did you want to say something?
No. Just go ahead. It's an important point to clarify.
No problem. So it kind of leads me into my next question. You've talked about this many times. Post-quantum cryptography. We need it now. We don't need it in like 4 to 5 years. Why do we need it now, so that everybody that's watching us live can understand why it's a need now and not when the quantum attack happens?
Yeah, I mean, the now is due timing, right? Because as you say, the CEO of NVIDIA was saying that this is actually a 30 years issue. And he made only a comment. It was not a statement. He was answering a journalist, right? And this was misunderstood. Sure. He clarified that later. But anyway, when you say something is in 30 years, investors and technology, they say, why to bother? Let's wait until we reach near to that deadline to take actions, right?
Sure.
But then he corrected, because Google came with Willow, and Amazon came with a core, quantum core, and Rigetti and IonQ. All these companies made progress on developing quantum computers, and then the consensus was obviously that this is going to be faster. It's going to be between 3 and 5 years, and this could be even accelerated, because there are new development now where we are increasing the capability of creating qubits, which is what it's all about, right? If we are at 10 qubits, if we are 100 qubits, then that computer will break everything. So the consensus now, this is going to be faster. And if it's faster, the day that happened, let's say that we are in 2033 today, or 32, and quantum computers are there. If those computers arrive in the hands on their own people, I don't expect Google, obviously, or Amazon to play breaking people's security. That will not be their objective. But this could go into the hands of a rogue government or a terrorist group that could really create an unknown and massive damage, like breaking credit cards, breaking banking system, destroying city controls of light, traffic, disrupting airliners. So that is still based on RSA security and triple DES and traditional security, which has been there for 45 years. And quantum computer with a very, very limited amount of computers, you don't need hundreds of them, you just need maybe 2 or 3, will be able to break all that. So we are like imagine that that a virus is arriving. You're not going to wait that the virus is there, like happened last time, by the way, to develop the vaccine, right?
Sure.
You rather develop the vaccine before and vaccinate everybody. So when the virus arrive, the casualties are limited. The same thing happens here. We are in that situation where we know that something very serious is arriving, but companies, they are now calling us, CEOs, board, insurance company, and they are saying, wow, what is my level of liability here if I don't take the right decision? Because this is a natural liability. It's not a nice to have, it's a must to have. If I have a bank and I have my money in the bank, and the bank, because there was negligent in developing the right post-quantum strategy, gets hacked one day with a quantum computer, I can take legal action against that bank and say, hey guys, you have all the time you needed, why you didn't protect yourself, right?
Correct.
So this is what's happening now. The industry is learning. And that's why if you see the trading behavior of CLSQ and you compare with any of the quantum company, it's actually the same. When they go up, we go up. When they go down, we go
Right.
down.
Right.
That shows that investors, that they are investing in the quantum, they are also investing in the post-quantum, in the security. Actually, I will be in New York in this quantum conference in October. The 19th of October is a very big quantum conference where we are all together, and this is going to be one of the major discussion points, right? While
For
we
sure.
talk about quantum, which everybody knows about it, we should start to focus on post-quantum security, and they're right, not only at the software level, but also at the hardware level. Because
Right.
one of the first things you need to secure is objects. 1 trillion objects are getting connected to the internet. They don't have any security. The only security you have in cameras or a small detector. Sometimes it's only a QR code, and sometimes not even that. So this needs to be upgraded to the new regulations in the United States, like the Cyber Trust Mark, which forces objects to have a secure element, or the Matter certification for home devices, in order to protect people, right? Because
Right.
it's similar to what happened when I still remember, right? Your cars didn't have airbags, and everybody say, why I have to pay for an airbag? That should be the responsibility of the car manufacturer. So the users put pressure on car manufacturer, and everybody obviously have to put an airbag because that saves life. So we are in that process on where the public is putting now concerns to their providers, telcos, banks, insurance company, hospital. They are saying, hey guys, you should be post-quantum secure in order to be quantum ready for the quantum day, which will arrive in 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But we need to be ready.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's interesting that we're in a company that is structured mostly on the defense side of things, and I wish you best of luck as well with the meeting in New York. Are you going to be with Mark Minovich and the rest of the staff?
Mark is on our advisory board. I was with him just a few days ago in Gibraltar. Yeah, Mark will be there for sure. Mark is one of the leading AI expert now in our advisory board, and he has a very interesting views also how AI is becoming also a problem for cybersecurity, right? Because
Right.
you are now in the last days, the AI voice personalization. I just got an email from somebody that told me that a fake AI person just got $30 million for a venture capital bank by creating a fake pitch
Oh wow.
of a person. So we are not able anymore to make the difference whether you and we actually real. Maybe we are bots,
Sure.
right? So
Yeah.
this is going to get more and more dangerous with AI as AI is getting more and more powerful. Imagine when quantum accelerates AI, because AI now is depending on supercomputers and data centers. But what we have to understand that one quantum computer is equal to hundreds of thousands of supercomputers, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
that it needs less electricity, it needs less data center. You don't have to have those massive data centers where all the money is going now. This will have also disruption in the infrastructure, which is the number one priority now. People are not investing actually so much on AI; they're investing on the infrastructure to run AI, right?
Right. For sure.
And that's going to be disrupted again with quantum. So it's really a paradigm shift. Quantum, it creates a new era, and we need to be ready for it. And the companies that they are investing and they are raising money now. They are raising money, and they're raising a lot of money, like we did,
Mm-hmm.
or Rigetti did, or IonQ did, because we are preparing that third generation on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is like you're talking about the investment too. So I want to quickly talk about Microsoft, and then I want to also segue into the hardware stuff because I know we got to get into that. But so Microsoft, I saw recently that they had invested $400 million in Switzerland. So that's really exciting for me. But then you also hear about the fact that their systems were not able to protect the US nuclear weapons. When I read that report, I was so scared. And the moment I thought about that, I thought this would be a cool opportunity for CLSQ and for WiseKey at large. So to talk about this, how can you elaborate more on the QS7001 chip and also the QVault TPM? And could you identify whether one of those two pieces of hardware could be integrated into a system such as the Department of Defense with the US, and how that would help protect them in the future? Because we know about hackers, Carlos. It's store now, decrypt later.
Yeah, which is the main problem. I mean, the main opportunity for quantum computers, because there will be but on that, on the store now and decrypt later, there are two aspects of it. One is what they already got, the hackers, and that's you. Even if you come in with post quantum computer, you will not be able to protect that, because that was not protected yet. So the day that the quantum computer arrives, it will be able to read that data, right? And nothing can be done there. But the data that you start to secure today, if you have one of those chips, especially the Volt IC TPM chip, that will not be possible to decrypt later. So that's why the decision is so important. If I wait a year more, but this is more data than I am exposing. If I am multinational, that means hackers are getting the data. It's very hard today anyone to say I never been hacked. Everybody should assume that has been already hacked, because this is becoming so easy. Because as I mentioned before, the architecture of the World Wide Web and the internet was not secure enough to avoid hacking. It's so many ways on where you can hack a person, a computer, a company, or even a government. But if you encrypt the data using the new NIST cipher, the new algorithm, that data at least cannot be decrypted by a quantum computer. So that's why the decision is so important. The way we started is that Volt IC is a chip that has been there for many years. Actually, one of the Volt IC chip was actually the BlackBerry chip. BlackBerry was 300. That part of the business was $300 million revenue for the company, only on BlackBerry, and then BlackBerry went down, and with them, that money was reduced to 30 million. And then we said, okay, now that phones are not, BlackBerry is not buying the chip anymore. Where else can we do with that chip? And then we thought about IoT, and then we said, okay, the same security you can put inside of a BlackBerry, you can also put inside an object, right? Your video camera, your smart detector at home, your mobile phone, your TV, everything. I mean, that's a total different number of devices, because mobile phones, the maximum you can sell is maybe 8 billion phones, which is one phone per person on Earth. Whether IoT devices, we are talking about trillions, right? Things that are getting connected to the internet. We had a legacy of 1.6 billion chips already sold historically in the company, that many of them were also connecting gradually to the internet. So then we said, what about it? We're going to stay there. I mean, this is enough business there to stay there and sell chips and just become a traditional chip company. But then we say the big opportunity here is to go to the next level and make the chips already today ready to defend a problem that might happen in 3 to 5 years time, right? So because it takes time, because even if you buy the chip and you are Cisco, which is a big client from us, you need to engineer that chip into your system, electronics, your operating system. So it's something that takes a while from the moment you buy the chip to the moment you make the object functional around the TPM capabilities of the chip, right? So, but the big news is that we are talking about potential trillions of chips that they need to upgrade to the next generation post-quantum chips. And then you have also the post-quantum software, which does not require a chip, because there are many objects you don't want to put a chip on it, right? Because they are too low cost. And you just don't need to do it. You can put it into a trust zone, software zone, where you can inject the chip. And then we are thinking also other possibilities, like putting AI at the device level. AI is at the cloud level mainly now, but not at the device level. Nobody's putting AI at the device level, and that will be one of the areas where we are going to invest a lot of resources in the future to make those objects intelligent. So that means your camera, your connected car, your drone, all the devices will learn about the attack, and they will auto self-programming themselves in order to defend that attack. It's like an immunity system reacts against a virus, right? So this is the roadmap of the company as we move forward.
Nice. So Carlos, talking about both the hardware and the software. So you have the QS7001 chip that is going to be in late production of Q4 2025 into 2026. We also know that you guys have software in the form of crystals dilithium, and crystals kyber. So I know that there's been a lot of speculation in the space about, people making claims about quantum resistant, quantum safe. Some people are thinking that this, I'm not saying your company in particular, but I'm just saying the general population, because they don't understand it, they're calling it a scam. So how can you guys prove, because I've seen you guys also show demos in Davos about the hardware and the software, and it's really quite interesting to see the encryption, decryption, and the speed in milliseconds for between legacy to now modern algorithms. How can you prove to the audience today that these chips and this software, the algorithms, are both either post-quantum ready or quantum resistant or quantum safe?
Yeah, so those encryptions are not our encryption. This is NIST, NIST, which is the standardization body in the United States. It's a government entity, right? Define in February last year the new cryptos that they will use in the quantum ecosystem, right? So you apply them. What you do is you take them and you insert that into your object, and that is the test that you saw online, where you can see how they are both chip, one with and without, they are reacting against a quantum attack. I mean, the companies that they are saying we are quantum ready and blah blah blah, it's a hype. Obviously, they think because they say something like that, they're going to take attention. But if you are not in the NIST website, you are not in quantum. If you go to the NIST website, you will see CLSQ, as you will see Infineon and 8 other companies. Those companies go through a very strict testing process, and you cannot, which is actually the case now. We have the chip already. We are testing the chip on daily basis with our client, but they are not yet fully certified, because NIST has saying that the certification is coming by the end of the year. And actually, with the reduction they had on the staff, with this government issues they had, they have a very long waiting list of certification. So there's a bottleneck there, right? But no, the certificate is like Web Trust. I mean, Web Trust, yesterday we announced that the cryptographic root key of WISE-key was certified again, Web Trust. So Web Trust is an independent audit. You have auditors that come into the company, they check everything, they check the generations of the key, they check out the cipher, and the end of the process, if you satisfy the requirement, you get certified. We have many other certifications like ISO certification, like ASIC certification. So all that together makes very solid when you say you are post-quantum. You cannot be post-quantum chips if you don't have chips, security, and type. Now, what I think the market wants to see, and I understand that, is concrete cases on where you're using this technology and you want to test an attack of a quantum computer. I mean, for the moment, those simulations are done with the current evolutions of quantum computers. So we invested in a company with the name Colibri, TD. Colibri has a connectivity with the IBM Quantum, also with Rigetti Quantum. So they have already, it's like a middleware between the client and the quantum computers, because in the future, quantum computers are complex. So not everybody will be able to connect to a quantum computer like you connect to a cloud, right? So Colibri, we invested on them because we realized that we could run real-time testing on their cybersecurity by simulating a quantum attack already. And this is very unique, right? So we are able to simulate an attack and see how the chip will defend the attack, or the product will defend an attack. We're also able to use that computational capability to, for instance, simulate development of a new pharmaceutical drug or the development of new material. So we are at the beginning of all that, and this is very exciting because we're also expanding the reach of things that you can do with that chip.
Yeah, you know what, Carlos, it is really exciting. And I think that's the main thing that I believe investors and I would say even Wall Street at large, there is a little bit of impatience because they do want to see the concrete evidence side of things. But, I would agree that we are kind of early. But again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, is like we are very futuristic looking, and the retail community has a lot of confidence in you, sir. And
just on a point on the retail community, I think it's very important. We are trading 10 to 20 million shares a day, and we have a huge amount of retail, but we also have a huge amount of institutional investors, then they are
Right.
slowly entering into the capital. We announced with Cantor, a TPM. We just announced also a $60 million investment with the same fund that invested $1 billion in IonQ.
Right.
Hayes. So that shows that these investors, they know exactly who are going to be the winners on the quantum and post quantum era, and this is a very small community, right? So. Everybody basically, with the good news is that those companies are becoming very big. We are trading at $450 million and getting bigger. So which is actually the message of confidence that the market has on us. It's not only retail investors, which are great, and they are, by the way, in many cases, they are the one that diversify the investors' portfolio in a healthy way, right?
Sure.
But also institutions. Now, when they see the volume, they also invest, because institutions, they invest when they see volume. And when you have high volumes, like we have 20, 30 million shares a day, then institutions feel confidence to enter into the stock. So everything goes together, right? But I think we are beyond that process now. We are in the process of growth. I think 26 is the year where you're going to have not only the new chip fully commercial, but also we have developed a new model which is actually making a lot of good result, which is the personalization center. So we can build for less than $100 million a secure microchip post-quantum personalization center at national level, providing the machines, the clean room, everything that you need to personalize your chips. And we just did a $60 million deal in over 3 years in Spain with the Spanish government. And this is going to replicate in many governments, because governments wants to have ownership of what they put in the chip. They don't want the chips to come in from another country. They don't know if there's backdoors or whatever. They want to have clean chips, empty chip, naked chip, and put their own crypto and follow the personalization process of that chip to their industries. Like the chip will be used in Spain for solar panels, because we are collecting out of the chip that secures the panel, but also we are collecting electricity from the panel through the chip into Landis+Gyr smart meters. So all that new ways of using the chips is fed by the fact that we are verticalizing country by country.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too is, Carlos, you've landed some pretty big partnerships. You've got Landis+Gyr, I think I pronounced that correctly. You've been, like, Cisco's been one of your major customers. Siemens been one of your major customers for years. Colibri TD, you've talked about them with their algorithms. You've done things with Dior. You have Parrot, which is the drone company. So you have some very reputable names behind your company. So I wanted to ask you a two-part question. They're two separate things, but I want to start with CLSQ USA and the development of the factory. I know you and Mark specifically were trying to bring that to the USA in light of the tariff situation that Donald Trump has instilled upon the country. How is that going?
Yeah, so the same type of project we did in Spain, we are replicating in the United States, which are personalization centers, like you call an OSAT, that allows our semiconductors to be tailor-made and adapted to the requirements of the U.S. legislation and also the certification process in the United States. Now, in the U.S., it's a confusion in the U.S. between a personalization center, which is a $100 million project, and a full fab. We are not building a fab.
Okay.
Fab is a $6 billion, $10 billion project, and this is where Arizona and other states are building up, which are like the huge factories. We are fabless, so that means that once we design the chip, we bring to those fabs and they manufacture for us. And then we bring the chip into the OSAT, and then we personalize the chip with our technology, right?
Okay.
So in the United States, we are actually I cannot disclose yet the state now because we are still negotiating. It was a delay because before you have the E-Chip Act in the United States that had $100 billion, and you have Colorado, Arizona, and Texas as hubs. This was done by Biden, and then Trump arrived, and he canceled that. So it's a kind of we don't know exactly what are the incentives that those states make now for companies to bring our technology. Right, before it was clear, now it's less clear, and obviously that is done always or you call that the paru parsi, which is investment from the company match with investment from the state. So if it's 100 million, we put 50 million, and the state put another 50 million, right? But cool. But we are in that process. I created CLSQ USA in Arizona. Doesn't mean that it's going to be in Arizona. We are negotiating, but it's been created there. And we are now talking to very large companies that they have already white rooms and things like that where we can partnership. And I will be giving more information by the end of the year. But yes, our objective is move as much as we can into the United States, because this is where the market is, right? I mean, Europe is also a big market, but it's more fragmented, means that you have to go country by country, whether in the United States you have immediately 300 million consumers, right? And they need that level of security.
Well, even to speak more so, just not even about Europe, Carlos, you and Mark have been very busy. You were in Gibraltar last week. You've been to Spain. You were in India earlier this year. You've been all over the map. So, and this is what I was talking about even with the retail community, is I think there's this misunderstanding is no, CLSQ is not just a semiconductor business. WiseKey is not just satellites. Like, you guys are literally building an ecosystem from space. And what's really interesting, Carlos, is you guys are investing in nano and pico satellites which are low Earth orbit LEO satellites, which I absolutely love, because you guys have obviously done your research and thought latency is a big issue. So that kind of leads me into my next question. We're going to talk about the crypto treasury and your strategic investment in that. And we're going to talk about the crypto specifically, because I know everybody's excited about Sealcoin. So why the $30 million investment into the crypto treasury?
Yeah, maybe first to give you more color on the satellite, because we have 21 satellite in orbit. So we are one of the largest private satellite constellations. We can anytime, any day, visit one location in the planet 3 times a day. So your office or satellites will be near to your office every day 3 times. And that means globally. That means in Asia, that means in the middle of the sea, that means in the middle of the desert. So this is already good enough for some clients that they are starting to use that constellation to track and trace their object, like a container in the middle of the sea. Connects with the satellite, because the container is sending signals to the satellite, and the integrity of the container has not been compromised, and the container is being traveling from point A to point B. So all that analytics go through the satellite. The other thing that satellite does is traceability of objects, so like a car in the middle of the roads or a truck. I mean, everything market of traceability is very big. So our objective is to move to 100 satellite, which will give the same latency that we have of 3 times per day. We will increase that by hundreds of times per day. The satellite will cross a specific location. Higher is the latency, more clients you get, because then you become like a telco. More antennas you put, more coverage you give, more subscribers you get.
Sure.
So this is evolving. The good news is that we already send those satellites, and now many partners. We announced 2 days ago a deal with Endurosat, which is a European satellite company doing deals with Airbus and many big contractors. And we are creating this ecosystem of satellite manufacturers, and they're coming to us to even make it much bigger, the constellation. So the other thing we tested, because we have the satellite, is the possibility from the satellite, because the connectivity is global, to exchange crypto from orbit. So we did a pilot with Hedera. Hedera is one of the leading blockchain companies in Switzerland. And the thinking was, what about if an object needs to buy data from another object, how this payment is done? Let's say one drone buys data from another drone, a Parrot drone buys data from another Parrot drone. How you get paid? So we developed Sealcoin, which is a machine-to-machine payment token that allows you basically to create a machine economy. All those objects, they pay each other, and it's the satellite, the one that does the settlement. So basically, the satellite acts like the connector between those objects, because the satellite knows and has the identity of the object object and can be traced from the space. So that's a very new way of creating a digital economy from the space. Space is going to be the next frontier, and it's a lot of excitement. People coming to us to say, "Oh, we want to use the constellation to do blockchain in space. We want to put nodes in the space." So it's opening a huge amount of interaction, which, by the way, increases the appeal of CLSQ, because CLSQ has the sensors and the chips, right? And the satellite talking to them. So by creating a big ecosystem of objects, more satellites are required, and having more satellite, more connectivity you can provide to your chips. So it's a win-win-win. And then because you need to buy chips that has this cryptographic capability, and some of them we don't want to only do Sealcoin, we want to do Bitcoin on the space or Ether or whatever. And we are sitting on a very strong cash position, which we don't necessarily need now, because our burn rate is very well contained. So we say, what about if we put 30 million in a treasury for the company to be able to acquire crypto from different preferred crypto providers that will allow us to test the connectivity from the satellite. So the next, for instance, we are buying Bitcoins now, we are buying Ethers, and then now we will, in future satellites, we're going to be embedding Bitcoin and another crypto into the wallet, which is inserted into the satellite itself. So that means in the future, we can go to a bank and offer that service of satellites to bank, because we will be able to show them how you can exchange crypto from the space and so on, right? So that's the strategy.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I appreciate you clarifying that, and obviously, like, you've been pretty diversified with the treasury. So you've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, you're going to be putting Hedera, which is obviously HBAR. You're also going to be putting WeCAN, and we're going to talk about WeCAN because I know I've already talked to Nathan, and we're going to have him on the show too, which I'm really excited to have him on, and possibly Vincent too. And then you're going to be putting Sealcoin, which is also known as Kite, which is quantum AI transactions.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see like how you're kind of positioning that and creating the synergy. So I also wanted to talk really quickly about more of like the US stuff. I want to start with the satellites, and then I want to talk about any, potential contracts that you can disclose. Again, if you can't, that's totally fine. But first off, you've said in the past that you guys occupy roughly about 10% of space, but a majority of that is concentrated in Europe. Do you see those satellites that you're going to be launching into space over the next 2 years? Are they going to be able to occupy not only the US side, but the entire globe? Is that the objective?
That's for sure the objective. We are launching them with the SpaceX, right? So there's also other carriers, and they are launching soon, or satellite, PLD Space, and another company in India with the name Skyroot. Then they have different orbits. So as we expand and we have the right certifications, because launching satellite in the United States, covering the US, requires specific certifications, which are in the process. That will obviously cover the world, and this is our objectives. So this is an ongoing process there. We are also teaming with other constellations, so we don't want to be only us sending satellite into our constellation. We are now, we just added satellite for Astrocast, which is another constellation.
Right.
And we're talking to several American constellations that they want to benefit from our coverage, and we want to benefit from their coverage. So we provide like a satellite mesh, what we call satellite as a service, right? What excites them is that we have the sensors, we have the chips, right? So satellite, if it doesn't have the chips, how you track an object, right? So we are the only company that does both, and that goes very much in a strategy. We did it actually before then, but when they announced, IonQ just acquired Capella Space. So you see a quantum company acquiring a space company, right? So that's actually a very clear sign that those industries sooner or later are going to converge. The ultimate goal on constellations like that is device to device. It's basically being able to connect your WhatsApp on satellite, right? This is going to be the breakthrough. When you reach that, not only you are able to connect objects, but you are able to connect the people as well. Obviously, that will require the same regulations that telcos have, because you cannot just connect wherever you want. It has to go through different jurisdiction. You have here in Switzerland, Geneva, you have ITU, International Telecommunication Union, which is a standard body. You have to negotiate the frequencies. I mean, it's a very complex process. But once you get it, you get it. And obviously, the fact that you have a constellation operational is a key decision point for them to give you the spectrum and the access. Yeah.
Can you speak on any potential U.S. contracts that might be coming within the next 18 months? I know investors are curious to see if there's going to be any red tape that's going to be cut, because, you've spoken so many times about like this groundbreaking technology. I am a believer. I believe that's why I've put my money where my mouth is. The question is, how can other retail investors be convinced that there are U.S. contracts coming?
Yeah, I mean, we have them already. I mean, 50% of our revenue is U.S. revenue, right? And those contracts are already. I mean, in microchips, you don't have a contract per se.
Okay.
The company will buy chips from you historically. Cisco has acquired already 100 million chips from us historically. Nice. And as we increment the technology, they're going to be incrementing the contract. So those contracts get bigger and bigger and bigger because we are giving to them what they need and what they need on their deployment. Our strategy is to capture the way we call foundational clients, that they can create ecosystem of ourselves. For instance, Cisco, we are securing Cisco routers with the chips, right? But Cisco routers are connected to millions of devices in the United States. Everything goes through a Cisco router, right? So while we talk to them and say, what about if together we go to hospital, we go to airports, we go to government offices, defense, and we teach them how to connect a Cisco router chip with their own chip, which we will install for them. So that creates new customers, right?
Right.
And that's the way you sell it. You don't go just by winning a contract and announcing a contract. It's by building the ecosystem, which they start to create interoperability with what we call foundational partners. The same thing we have with Medtronic, another client of ours in the United States. This is for the medical sector. We just acquired a company with the name IC Ops a few months ago. Which is going to be, it's only subject now to the authorization by the French government, which should be there anytime soon now. And that company has an ASIC capability, means they can develop specific chips for a specific industry, and they are very strong in the medical industry. So that means that hospitals, you need to put chips in every connected device in the hospital, like your pump insulin, like your heart monitoring device. Imagine if a hacker hacks into that. It happens all the time, right? That hospital being hacked. So you need to defend that perimeter with this technology. So those are the clients we are building, right? We go sector by sector, industry by industry. For the moment, as I mentioned, and this is the same situation with Rigetti and IonQ, they don't have big revenue. All these companies, they are less than $100 million revenue. Some of them, they have less than $20 million revenue. And the reason is that this is a new industry. We are in post-quantum and quantum where we were on the internet the year 2000, right? Google at that time, they have a few dollars revenue because there was not enough sites to index, right? Once the explosion of websites becomes so big, then the engine of Google become very powerful. We're in the same situation now. First, you have to build ecosystem. First, you have to have those connections done, and then the revenue comes. And the beauty of that, then the revenue becomes exponential revenue, and recurrent revenue. But before you have to build infrastructure, it's like building trains. So you have to first invest in the rails, and once it's there, you put the train, right? You cannot do it the other way around. So we are building the infrastructure now, and this is the investment we are making. We have invested a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars of this. The good news is that we are about 5 to 10 years ahead of anybody competing with us now, right? So this is where the company is so hot now, because we have a quantity of IP. We are sitting on 35,000 patents. I mean, it's a huge amount of intellectual property that they are waiting to be converted into products once you have this infrastructure fully deployed.
That's awesome, Carlos. That is a huge update that I think that's big for me, but also for retail to learn about. That is super exciting. And if any if there's any like analysts from Wall Street watching this too, I hope they're now getting that kind of idea that it's growing.
When I talk to analysts, and I talk to a lot of them, the problem in the United States, which is the problem in many places, that you have some semiconductor analysts, you have a quantum analysts, and you have cybersecurity analysts, but each of them is good in one vertical, but they are not able to analyze just the intersection of those verticals.
Sure.
So this is where a new generation of analysts are coming, and they are saying, okay, now, and actually we are educating many of them. We understand that whatever you do in semiconductor has consequences on cybersecurity, which then has consequences in quantum and post-quantum. When those reports emerge, which are slowly emerging, we have some analyst coverage already, and they are understanding that combination. Then the market will be fully informed in a way that will allow both, institutional investors and retail investors to take educated decisions when they invest in a stock like CLSQ.
Absolutely. Carlos, let's talk a little bit about WeCAN, because that is a really interesting partnership. WeCAN has access to over 100 institutions, private management, private wealth funds. Why did you acquire a 28.3% stake? And why do you trust the leadership of both Nathan and Vincent?
I mean, both of them, they're amazing guys. Vincent is a PhD. He used to work for the government. They are one of maybe the best banking experts now in KYC. So they have developed a very sophisticated blockchain application that allows a person, when you open one bank account in your bank, and then you need to open another bank account, or you need to open an account with the insurance company and an account with a postal company, all the accounts that you have to open, all of them, they require KYC. So it's a tedious process. You have to go show your passport. It's very analog. And these guys have developed a system which is in place by leading banks, that once you do a KYC once, you can put it on a blockchain, and then you go to the ledger on the blockchain and verify that the KYC has been done, and therefore authorize that person to open a banking relation or insurance relation or whatever relation they have to go. So they have simplified the trust layer on using blockchain technology. For us, was very important because we have identity. This is more a WISE-key part, but we issue identities, digital identities, and KYC is an extension of a digital identity. So we are helping them to expand their ecosystem into our ecosystem, and we are attaching the KYC to our ecosystem. In the other way, they are attaching the WISE ID into the KYC part. They also have a token which is growing, actually, the WeCAN token, which is the reward mechanism for anybody doing those KYCs. So that's the reward. You get paid basically by doing that from the blockchain, and it's part of our treasury also. So part of the treasury that we announced will be also to boost that token, because this token has huge potential. This is a very localized company. Mainly Swiss banks are using it, but obviously the potential is to do that international with international banks, and I'm sure in the following months you will see a lot of activity there. So it's a startup that we invested. I allocated $20 million at the beginning of the year to invest in the startups that will accelerate our quantum roadmap. So they are one of it. We also put $10 million $12 million in the acquisition of ICOps, and also we put some funding also on the blockchain, on the quantum company with the name Colibri TD. So it's part of our strategy that allows us to. And this is the strategy we have in investment. We're not a VC, right? So what we want is to invest in companies that they are reach a maturity level that can be integrated into our architecture and platform, and then obviously accelerate their growth development.
Yeah, that's super fascinating, Carlos. Now, one thing that a lot of investors probably don't know about as well is that you guys have an alliance with the Swiss Army, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really fascinating that you've not only covered agriculture, automotive, medical, smart meters, home meters, satellites, you also have military defense.
Yeah.
So my question is about, what are you specifically supplying to the Swiss Army in terms of defense? And could you see yourself possibly doing that with other armies across the globe? Because Switzerland, as a country, we know that they're net neutral with the world. So how does that strategically help you guys with that? So if you want to elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, I mean, we're neutral, but we need to be able to defend ourselves, right? In case
absolutely
one case that change. That came from our experience in securing drones. So Parrot is one of the companies that they are putting secure element, the Volt IC, into the drones. Because they wanted to have end-to-end security between the drone and the soldier. Actually, Parrot is selling to the U.S. Defense, the U.S. Army, together with another drone company. Then we also developed the same technology. So that opens a bit of discussion with armies, because army of the world, not only in Switzerland, of the world, they are looking into Web 3.0 as a way to change their strategy. Before, the strategy of armies were very centralized command centers, silos, where they have everything stored, and then they take decisions from those centralized centers. But with the new battlefield technology, with missiles that they go speed of the sound, all that has changed. I mean, they are moving to what we call a decentralized battlefield technology. It means that soldiers are connected directly with satellites using secure phones. Those secure phones have secure chips, post-quantum ready, so they can communicate encrypted with a satellite. And everything with an army has, tanks, weapons, whatever, they have a chip. It's an IoT device at the end of the day. Right? So they need to be tracked and traceable. Here in Switzerland, we have a lot of mountains, so it's very expensive to know where everything is, because we have many valleys. So how you do it, you cannot put antennas in every mountain. So the cheapest way and fastest way to do it through the space, through satellites. And we triangulate the connection satellite drone device as a experimental. It works very well, and those are the agreement. I cannot discuss more because we are entering into the defense contract. But it's a public information that defense is moving from centralized silo type of defense to Web 3.0 decentralized peer-to-peer interconnectivity, where the design is totally different, cheaper for them because they don't have to maintain those huge infrastructures, and it's more secure because if you get attacked and destroy in a silo, you destroy the entire thing. Whether you get attacked in a decentralized, you might destroy one component, but the other hundreds of thousand components are still functioning, right? So it's a much better architecture, the technology architecture, than the previous one that all armies of the world were using.
Cool. Now, the other drone company, I believe, in the United States, that's AG Eagle, correct?
Yes. This is a company that has also relations with the U.S. Army. Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Carlos, before we get into some fun questions, because I know we've asked you a lot of cool questions, but we want to do some fun questions so people can get to know the real Carlos Creus Moreira. Are you aware of other government programs? I've got some DMs here from some of my members on Reddit where they were talking about SBIR, STTR awards, where it's grants. There's also different research and development credits that you guys can get. Have you guys actually looked into that? Are you aware of them?
Yeah. We do have actually a full division following those grants, both in Europe, like the eChip Act, as I mentioned before. This is a $45 billion funding available for European companies, and they are building semiconductor capabilities. And we actually won one contract already in Spain. This is public information. You also have in the United States, as I mentioned. Although now we don't know exactly how you call it, but there is a funding also for semiconductor companies moving into the United States. You also have a PERTI space, which is a fund to create some kind of sovereign access to the space, because in the future countries they might want to own their own constellations. The space is becoming like the internet of the future. So you don't want all the servers of the internet located in one place. The sovereign aspect pays. There's a lot of funding available for that.
Sure.
And in Switzerland, we have, Switzerland acquired the F-35, the fighters, the plane from the U.S. So there is an offsetting process on where there was a $7 billion acquisition. So that means that U.S. companies, they need to buy also technology from Switzerland. So there's also funding available there that can be used. So yeah, there is a now, I would say, consensus everywhere that the fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be powered by AI, quantum, IoT, and blockchain, needs to be built. That architecture does not exist, right? So
Sure.
we need to build a future internet architecture to build the smart cities of the future, smart hospital of the future. And for that, you need this kind of support, which obviously cannot be only provided by a company. It needs to be a collective support from government and private public sector.
Sounds good. Carlos, I wanted to ask you kind of one final question before we get into the fun things too. You've talked about an AI model that is a little bit separate from both WiseKey and CLSQ. I believe you talked about it back in February when you were on the NASDAQ with the entire panel. How's that going? Do you want to elaborate on any of that, or is that not open to discussion?
No, yeah, we actually announced progress on that. The name is Human AIT. That's the name of the program, Human AIT, which is humanity. You know, if you just read together.
Right.
So this is a endeavor of using a decentralized number of documents from international treaties, legal documents, philosophy books, religion texts, to train an NLM that started to be trained here in Switzerland by us. And this is the thinking is, how can you create a AI of the future that will be morally sound and will be based on decentralized wisdom that the humans has been able to collect, right? So we're doing that in cooperation with the UN. We have been involved with the Vatican and many other organizations, and we are open to university. I was also in MIT with the Sapiens program, and we're also talking to Harvard University. So the idea is to expand the reach. So one day, this algorithm will know what a human is. That's the full objective without being biased. Fabio, I know that you want to ask me some other questions, but I have another commitment, so maybe we can move fast on whatever question. Maybe
sure. They're just going to be fun questions. Before we get into that, Carlos, I'm just going to link your X profile in our chat here, just so everybody, they want to follow you. That is his X. Carlos Creus, the CEO and founder of both WiseKey and CLSQ. Carlos, we're going to make it very fast. What's your favorite food?
Paella.
Paella. Okay. So that's obviously from your Spanish background, correct?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Favorite soccer team?
Real Madrid.
Oh, no. I used to be a huge Barcelona fan, but I have a lot of respect.
I like Barcelona too, but when they fight against somebody else.
I was a huge fan when they had the whole dynasty of Xavi and Iniesta. I used to watch them all the time as a kid. Cool.
Still the Spanish team, yeah.
What's your favorite type of watch?
I don't like too much watches, despite the fact that I am in Swiss. But if I need to say a name, I would say Patek Philippe.
Nice. When are you flying me to Switzerland so I can check out WiseKey and CLSQ?
Well, sorry. The question
when are you going to fly me out to Europe so I can check out the headquarters?
We can invite you to Davos, make an interview in Davos.
There you go. Awesome. And one final thing, Carlos, what do you want to say on behalf of like the retail community of both WiseKey and CLSQ to kind of close out the interview today?
So I would say, for retail investors, then they are following this sector. They should not look company individually. So they should not look Rigetti and then IonQ. They should make a list of the companies that they have components in this post-quantum and quantum ecosystem, and realize that when one goes up, everybody goes up, right?
Absolutely.
So if you are a short-term investor and you want to make a bucks out of that, that's a very easy way to follow the market, because a lot of the valuation of the company is very sensitive on what others say. You remember when the CEO of NVIDIA said that this was 30 years the stock collapsed by 40% in the beginning of the year, right? And then
Right.
it recovered again when Microsoft say that no, this is so it's going to be like that. Is a huge opportunities when it goes down, because we know it's going to go up again.
Sure.
And this is the smarter way to invest into this. But obviously, very good information is required. Very carefully understanding the technology, because this is a complex technology that not everybody understands, and being able to make a difference between the hype and the reality. So those are my advice.
Carlos, on behalf of the entire retail community, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to interview you, sir. Again, huge LAES investor, really excited for the future. And I look forward to hopefully getting you back on the channel relatively soon, because it would be great to give retail updates whenever you are available, sir.
Yeah, Fabio, great job. And I will also bring you some expert from my company, because obviously I have people and they know much more of a specifics than I do. You can also interview some of my key management staff. So
I would be absolutely
and also interviews, for instance, with our advisory board, people like Mark on AI. I mean, he's amazing. He went with Trump to Saudi Arabia on the delegation that closed the $2 trillion deal.
So he was actually in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, he was a part of the delegation.
Wow, I did not know that.
He's Mr. AI. He writes for Time Magazine,
That's awesome.
Everything. So
yeah, I want to get Mark on the channel eventually. So that's amazing, Carlos. Again, it's just such an honor and a privilege to have you here. Looking forward to connecting this professional partnership and hopefully a friendship too. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless you, sir.
God bless you too, Fabio. All the best. Take care.
Alrighty, take care, Carlos. Bye-bye. Wow, guys, what a crazy interview that was. Unbelievable. That was great. That was super great. Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Thank you. Take care. And I'm looking forward to interviewing him the next time. Guys, that was our CEO, and I don't know. I'm on cloud 9 right now, guys. That was pretty incredible. It was great to see his confidence. I hope that I was able to get as many of the questions out that I could. I definitely tried my best within the time frame, guys. But dude, that was wild. I want to give a shout out to our man Quantum Bull. He actually came out today. So there was a lot of information, obviously, to unpack in this interview. One thing I would love to do, guys, I'm gonna give him a plug. Quantum Bull, he's a good friend of mine. I would love to set him up with an interview with Carlos in the near future. So it's gonna be really good, man. All right, guys, I have to get going, and I know Carlos has to get going too. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was an absolute blast. I had such a fun time. And if you want to check out a little bit more of the stream later on this afternoon, I will be live around 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, just honored and privileged and blessed to be able to do an information session here. It was just so cool. One final thing, guys. If you guys want to check out Carlos, that is his X profile. Listen, guys, we got a busy day in the markets today. Good luck. It's going to be volatile. Don't get shaken out by anything. Keep confidence. And we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, guys. Thanks again. Bye-bye for now. Also, guys, I'm going to be making a recorded version of the interview. So if you missed it live, don't worry. It's going to be on YouTube. Like if you want to go back and like you weren't able to catch like earlier parts of the interview, it will be there. All right, guys, listen, I got to get going. Take care. Bye for now.